all you kids are here. If you're excited to be at Legoland Discovery, make some noise and scream. Awesome. Well, we're excited you're here. Now, I have a question for you. Who here thinks that they're going to be able to stay up the entire time we're here? Whoa. Okay, we're going to see. We're going to see who can beat me. I'm planning on staying up the entire time we're here. Now, also, I have another question. Who here has ever built anything with Legos before? Okay, that's a whole bunch of people. I mean, I love Legos. I've always loved Legos. And when I was a kid, I used to build with Legos all the time. And the thing is that me and my buddies, we would get together and we would try to build like cars, and we'd build like boats, and we'd try to build like Star Wars stuff because I love Star Wars so much. But one of the things we always did is we had a competition. We would try to see who could build the biggest and tallest building without it falling over. So we had to build a really strong building to see if it could stand up the longest. It was so much fun. It was a blast. In fact, I tell you what, I want to talk to you a little bit about having the biggest building, to have the strongest foundation that you could possibly have. And I want to tell you it by telling you a little story. Now, the story comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 7, and Jesus loved telling stories. He actually called them parables. And I'm going to tell you the parable of the wise and the foolish builder. But what I'm going to have to do first is I'm going to have to actually ask for some of my friends to help show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to have builder number 1. He's going to come help, and he's going to try to build the very first building over here. Now, we also have to have builder number 2 here to help us and see who can build the strongest building. The building that's not going to fall down. The building that is going to be able to stand through all of the junk and all of the trials and all of the storms. We're going to throw some storms at you. It has to be able to stand on its own. So builders, you can go ahead and get started. Now here's the thing. Jesus tells a story about 2 builders. He says one builder was a very wise builder. Now what made this builder so wise? Well, it was that this builder built his building, his house, on a solid foundation. He built it on top of a rock. And we know that if a rock is built on, that it's not going to wash away. It doesn't matter what storms come, it's going to stand up and not fall down. And the thing is that for you and me, well, our lives actually need to be built on a really strong foundation, just like a rock. Well, the thing is how do we build our foundation on top of a rock? Well, we have to be like the wise builder. We have to build it on something solid, and we're supposed to build it on Jesus and do the things that he asks us to do. We have to obey and follow Jesus. Now, the thing is, what does that look like? How do we obey and follow Jesus? Well, the first thing we can do is like maybe our parents ask us to do our homework before we play video games or hang out with our friends. If we decide to go ahead and do that and listen to our parents, then we're obeying Jesus' teaching, and we're actually able to build our strong foundation. See, each time we follow Jesus and we obey him, we're adding a rock. We're adding to our strong foundation of Jesus. Also, maybe it's coming to church. Every time you come to church, you obey Jesus and you put another rock on your foundation. He says, you should pray and talk to me all the time. Wow, another rock on your foundation. You should help others. You should share with others. Another rock on your foundation. And you're building the strongest foundation because you're building it on Jesus. Now remember, I told you we had 2 builders in this story. We had a wise builder who was building a very strong foundation, but there was also another builder who was building a building also, but he was building it on a not so good foundation. He was building it on sand. Jesus said another man was building a builder, and he decided to build it on sand, which was very foolish because we know that if water and rain comes, what's going to happen to that building? It's going to fall apart. It's not going to be able to stand up whenever problems or storms or challenges come along. Well, you know what? The same thing's true in our life also. When challenges or problems, things come along that we have to deal with, if we're not obeying and following Jesus, he says we're building it on sand, a really horrible foundation, and then our lives are going to fall apart, just like the foolish builder's house fell apart. So what does that look like for you and me in our lives? Well, if we decide that we don't want to follow Jesus' teachings, we don't want to do what he's asked us to do, like obey our parents. If we decide to not do that, then we're building our house, we're building our lives on top of a terrible foundation. The other thing is maybe your friends have kind of made you upset or angry or mad, and you decide to call them names or pick on them or say bad things about them when they're not around. Well, Jesus tells us we shouldn't do those things. And when we do, we're building our house on a horrible foundation because it's not built on him and the things that he wants us to learn. Now, see, the thing is, as the story continues to go on, and Jesus says that these storms, these big storms came by and started to blow against the house, and the rain came. And when that happened, well, see, the house that was built on a solid foundation, well, it didn't go anywhere. It stayed strong. In fact, you couldn't move it because it was built on a strong foundation. That's the same way that Jesus wants our lives to be built, is on his foundation, built on trusting and obeying him. However, if we decide to not obey Jesus, he says our lives are going to be like the foolish builder. That when the storms came and the challenges and the problems in life came along, when the storm started to come, the building actually fell apart because it didn't have the strongest foundation. Well, you see, for you and me, following Jesus is so important because our lives are going to have problems and challenges all the time. And if we haven't built on a strong foundation like builder number one, well, I'm telling you what, builder number one, the problems and challenges aren't going to knock us down because we're built on Jesus. However, just like builder number two, if we build it on foolish things and we don't trust Jesus, our lives could potentially fall apart and crumble because they don't have the right foundation. But what about you and me? You say, well, I want to make sure I have the right foundation. I don't want to fall apart. I don't want my life to crumble because I don't have the right foundation. Well, we have to have Jesus. How do you get Jesus? Well, to get Jesus, it's very simple. We have to simply say the ABC prayers. Anybody here know their ABCs? Great. Well, I'm going to teach you the ABCs of having a relationship with Jesus, such as A is admit. You have to admit, at this point, we're going to go through the ABCs and we're going to share with them. We'll fast forward after talking about the ABCs, also having to pray that prayer. We're not going to pray with them the prayer. We're going to say you could talk to your leaders or the person that's in your small group or one of the pastors about it, and we'll be able to share with them how to pray that prayer. And if they do, we'll have the trainers come and tell us so that way we can work together with the children and everything. And other than that, we'll also have a t-shirt example where we'll have two t-shirts. Let's see, one t-shirt, it'll be solid white, it won't be green, we'll hold it up. And we'll talk about how sin is when we mess up. We'll explain it to them. Sin is when we mess up, and whenever we mess up,